Bueno, pues seguimos con nuestro programa y ahora tenemos el gusto enorme de recibir en este escenario a un invitado muy especial cuyo trabajo ha cambiado la forma en la que entendemos el diseño textil y la innovación en materiales. Espero estarlo pronunciando bien. Se trata de Borre Akkersdijk. Él es diseñador, visionario y cofundador de BYBORRE, un estudio reconocido por su enfoque en el diseño responsable, la transparencia en los procesos y la creación de textiles innovadores que marcan la pauta en la industria global. Queremos aprovechar también este momento para agradecer profundamente a la Embajada de los Países Bajos, porque gracias a ellos y a nuestros amigos y familia de la Universidad Centro, y cuyo apoyo ha sido clave para poder hacer posible la participación de Borre en What Design Can Do, México GNP 2025. Por favor, un aplauso muy grande para Borre Akkersdijk. Estoy dispuesto a que me sapeen si no lo pronuncié bien. Was my pronunciation right?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
More or less, however you want to butcher it, it's okay. It's like
Okay.
I'm here in your country, not so.
But how do you say it? How do you pronounce it?
Well, my mom would say Borre Akkersdijk.
Ahí está.
So,
Gracias.
Granada. Wow. Hello, everybody. Everybody still a bit awake? Yeah, I see some people waving. Let's start there. It's like, I'm very curious who's all in the audience, and I'm not gonna ask all names, but who is in fashion design? Can we stand up? Can we stand up? So better like stand up a little bit. I see one very enthusiastic. Somebody in architecture? So stand. Okay. Are there some big brands, people that work at big corporations in the house? Stand up. Oh, being shamed. No, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. It's a big part of the change. Huh? So welcome. My name is Borre. But as I said, you can name me however you want to name me. Well, at least if it sounds a little bit like with a B, I will say hi. I'm super happy that I'm here. So first of all, thank you. It's not my first time in Mexico, but the first time in Mexico City, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about what I've been doing in my last 20 years. So for the last 20 years, I've worked in textiles. And the realization when I was figuring out what I was gonna do, and I was working with all these different materials, going to design school also, but before, at one point I was working with textiles, and the realization that I got was that the moment that we are born, we're wrapped in textiles, and then the rest of our lives, we are engaged with textiles. And actually every morning that we wake up, it's not like, oh, which textile am I gonna wear? What is cotton gonna do for me? Or, hey, let me wear my polyester shirt today. But you do think about, what does it mean to me? What is my image? What am I gonna tell people today? Or what type of work? I'm wearing my uniform or I'm wearing my gala dress. So anything is super intrigued. But textile by itself is such a big industry. An industry that really touches us all every single day, literally. But it's also an industry that is not really designed, and I'm not really digitized. It's designed on all sides. But so I'm working on the future of textile creation. And today, being here, in the last week being here, it was for me also an eye-opener, because I come from a very well-structured country in a lot of ways. But also with where structure and how we create things and how we build systems is how we think we need to do everything. And a lot of times when I was creating textiles, for me it seemed very unlogic how we were doing that. It was very unlogic how it was all based on spreadsheets and just making money. It was unlogic how it was based on sort of how can we be as efficient as possible, but not efficient to use our fibers as responsible as possible, but efficient to just make cash. And that was what I was working on. So by now, 20 years later, I'm a founder of several companies. I'm an innovator in different fields. I'm board members of like different parts on the supply chain, the union for textiles. I do heads of jury, but that doesn't start at the beginning. So like that's not where you start. You start at a point where you dive into research, dive into starting what is the fiber? So for the first decade of my career, I was in factories. I was next to the machines. I was going to the fields where crops were made. I really wanted to understand from the fiber how yarn was created, what functionality actually the fiber brought with him, what functionality the yarn brought, what functionality the construction brought, and all these steps in between. And more that I realized that, the more I understood that, well, this is actually what my grandma always used to say to me. The more you know, the better you know how little you know. So the more I figured out, the more I understood that this system was very broken and that I didn't really understand how to do it better. But one thing that I knew was this is not the way how I want to do it. So by looking at it and understanding fibers, understanding yarns, and understanding the production process of making clothing, I started to understand that actually 80% of the environmental impact and the footprint is made in the design process of just choosing what steps you do in textiles. Where almost any designer that uses textiles doesn't even start in that step. They just choose a textile without controlling those steps. So I believe that the future of textile is going to be totally different. I believe if I'm here, we need to understand better where things come from. We had some amazing lectures today looking at a sort of the history, how we can learn from how we used to do it and how we can learn from the land. And I believe we can do the same in textiles too. So one of the things that is very broken now is that as a person, who of you ever developed textiles? Oh, perfect. 1, 2, 3, like a few. Whoever made textile, we all use textile, but to come to a textile machine, to come to an industrial machine, it's almost impossible to get access to it. And I believe if you don't have access as a creator, you cannot make any decisions to do it better. So I truly believe that we are moving into an industry where digitization will have to come to give us access to these different steps. But it was too big to comprehend. But also today we saw all these lectures about AI being able to help us to make very complex systems understandable and accessible. So in the last couple of years, we were looking at how can we make an accessible supply chain? And that is something that I know for sure that is coming. And I know that I spoke to a few people in the last, couple of hours, but also the last couple of days that are able to help with those systems. But 10 years ago, I already started with that system to start to digitize the first step for me. And that was this machine. This is an industrial circular knitting machine. And it has 1,888 needles. It turns around, it can make around 11 meters per meter. And I was working from the beginning at the machine, changing one yarn to another. And one moment, I was looking with the technician, and we looked in the machine, and there was like a little dotted pattern. And I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And he's like, "I made a mistake." I was like, "What happened?" "Yeah, I forgot one cone." It's like, "Oh, this happens if you forget one? Like, you change the color?" It's like, "Oh, what happens if you do another and another and another?" And that's how I started creating color gradients and working in dialogue with the machine. At that moment, I also wanted to digitize the steps so that what I can do, use it easier. And we did that for the 8 years. And at that point, we were making textile very accessible, the creation process accessible for ourselves. We went to make collections, worked for the biggest brands from Adidas, Nike, BMW. We made a collection, came to Dover Street Market, big shops. And everybody was tapping us on the shoulder for a few things because we were doing it very great. But I also realized that digitizing that supply chain was something I was doing for myself. And due to that, I got attention from over 300 brands that wanted to collaborate with us. Not even for skill, but for attention. Like, oh, you're doing something special. The aesthetic is amazing. Like, I never seen that before. And what I thought then was, wow, is this what we wanted to do? Is it about my taps on the shoulder? Is it about us or me being great? And I was like, well, if I'm doing something better, if you do something better, then you need to start sharing. So the first step we started doing was, instead of having the platform for ourselves, how can we open source it? How can we give everybody that wants to create textile access to textile? And I saw some people in fashion design. So I was at a fashion school this week, and we went through it. And within an hour, I saw people designing textiles that looked amazing. And the funny thing is, if I would have known that, or looked like 10 years ago, if I would look to the future and saw people do that, I would have been scared. I was like, fuck, this cost me like months to do this. And now I'm like, oh, we created something that gives access to this. So if people want to create something, you can try it. It's online, and you can make your own steps. The funny part is, you make an account, and then you can make any textile that you want to make. But that was not why I did it. I did find out that for me, BYBORRE means textiles. BYBORRE means a sort of giving textiles to the world and giving responsible textiles to the world. Because 7 years ago, we started already making transparent passports. A transparent passport because we were proud. I was super proud of the yarn suppliers I was working with. I was proud of the machine manufacturers. I was proud of the factories and how it was shipped. I just wanted everybody to be on stage. And even in some shows that we did, we would always have giveaway t-shirts with everybody on it. From the cleaner to the people that were in the studio, to the people that were on stage, to the people that showcased it, because everybody is important, just as the supply chain. Last year, in the last years, we saw that a lot of the legislation in Europe was changing. So in 2027, the digital product passport will be mandatory. That means that your whole supply chain needs to be transparent. And the passport we made 7 years ago was used as an example for Brussels to say hey, this is how we need to do it. And in the last 2 years, I started realizing because times were tough, nobody understood us in the beginning. Why are you doing that? And it taking so much extra time, we were too expensive. And now I realized that we were 10 years ahead of our time. And being ahead of your time also means how can you figure out how we can change things together? And today we heard it a lot. And I was very excited that people said, well, we can't do it alone. It is the industry, it's the academia, it's the governments that all need to work together. And I felt the same. So in the last year, we started working with the ministries of the Netherlands to create an action plan for circular textiles in the Netherlands. And when we were doing that, we started figuring out that an action plan is not something for a few people, but it's creating a fundament, an equal playing field, so that everybody has access to the right steps, and that you all work together, and that it is not about your spreadsheet or making cash, but it is about what is the most fundamental thing about making something, is that you make it for use. And if you put use in every step of the way at number one, you will figure out that you don't want to overproduce, because that is too much. You make usage the best and the only part of a supply chain, and that makes the world change differently. But to be able to do that, you really, really need patience, because things don't fall out of thin air. Great things don't just appear. It is having the persistence to keep on going, even when you fall, even when you think it is not happening anymore, even when everybody is against you. And the moments when you push forward and going through, it will happen. And it will get there. Because if you have a great idea, It is just a matter of time if you keep on chanting about it, that you will find the person that will put you on to value, that values your idea and elevates it. Because if people are not listening, just go to the next until people start to understand you. And if good things take time, then we also know that we cannot do it in one generation. And also that being here, you see that the examples of literally generations before us, but also whole societies and whole means of life before us had answers. And that means that we very much need to look to the next generation and give the next generation stage. So one of the things that I'm here for, and also what I'm figuring out in my own career more and more, is that it is not about me, but it is about creating a fertile ground for the next generation to work on, but also inspiring the next generation to work with the generations before them, to look back what we did in the past and what worked, and not be just busy with what is scrolling by your phone. And that is something that I want to inspire everybody to do. Thank you very much. 3 seconds.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much.